Thank you very much, Scott. Today, I will be walking you through some insurance options and then share some recent performance, specifically in 2024, the performance of these insurance options. And I would also share with you a couple of tools that we have developed here for agricultural risk coverage, which essentially offers some payout to producers when they are triggered, and also price loss coverage, which also triggers when the marketing year average price goes below a certain level. Now, that said, forage production can be significantly impacted by factors including wildfire, flooding, and weeds. And there are a number of programs to mitigate the risks associated with this type of production. And one of these tools is forage production. For this product, coverage begins when forage reaches an adequate stand and the date listed in the policy. Forage seeding also is another policy that producers can also use in managing the risks associated with forage production. And for this policy, it essentially covers losses due to adverse weather, disease, pests, and wildlife, among others. Another tool that producers could also use is pasture, rangeland, and forage insurance. And this product essentially provides coverage when precipitation in your grid or in your area falls below the usual, especially within a 2-month period. So producers who enrolled in this type of policy get payout when the precipitation in their area goes below the usual in a 2-month period. Another policy that producers could also use for forage risk management is whole farm revenue protection. And this program is for the entire revenue on the farm rather than the individual crops and livestock on the farm. So this is designed such that it is suitable for diversified farms or expanding farm because it allows them to cover multiple crops and livestock under a single policy. Now, one thing we have observed over the period is that participation in these programs has been very low. So we see for PRF, for instance, we see that enrolled acres in 2024, for instance, was a little above 50,000, and the same for forage seeding as well. We see that within the 10-year period that I observed over here, forage production acres enrolled had been on a downward pattern, and we see a decline and is now a little above 150,000 acres insured in 2024. I know you may be wondering what is the case with whole farm revenue protection program. For that, enrollment is also very low and acres are not reported. So I rely on the policies sold within the year to gauge the extent of participation in this program. And with this, we see that from 2015 all the way to 2024, only 128 policies were sold. Policy sale peaked in 2017 with about 31 policies sold, and that declined to 5 in 2022, and it remained at that level since. Well, with this being the general trend within the Wisconsin state, we want to look at what is the case within county. When we look at the insured acres in 2024, we see there is some level of variability within the counties or across counties. And here we see that for forage seeding, we see that the concentration is up there, the same with production, forage production. And on your left, you also see the counties to your left for pasture, rangeland, and forage production insurance. Those we see concentration on the counties to your left. If you look at whole farm revenue protection, for instance, in 2024, which is last year, only 5 counties participated. And one of them is Portage. We have Marinette, and then Ozaki, Racine, and then St. Cruz. Now, from a producer's point of view, do these pay out when they enroll in them? And the answer to this question will be that it depends. If you look at the most recent year, here I am looking at the loss ratio, and the loss ratio is essentially indemnities divided by the premiums. And to focus on the producer, because the federal government pays a part of the premium, we take into consideration the subsidy. So here we divide indemnities by the producer premiums. And if the value you see in the table is greater than 1, then it tells you that producers receive a lot more in indemnities for every $1 of premium they paid for that particular policy. So when you look at forage production insurance over the 10-year period, we see that it generally tends to pay a lot more to producers than, or it pays a lot more in indemnities to producers than the premiums they paid. But the trend was not observed in 2024. We saw that year producers paid a lot more in premiums compared to the indemnities they received. The same thing applies to forage seeding. Pasture, rangeland, and forage insurance, however, we see that for every dollar of premium paid by producers in Wisconsin, they received on average about $1.69. When you look at whole farm revenue protection, what we see is that since 2020, no indemnities were triggered for those who enrolled in them. Now, for more on these insurance options, you can look at this. It will be shared with you shortly. So you can go here and you see the article on forage production risk management, specifically using whole farm revenue protection. And it also gives you a historical performance of these insurance products. The other ones, including forage seeding and forage production, as well as pasture forage and insurance for that PRF. For that, what you see the article posted shortly, so be on the lookout for that. Now, that said, allow me to veer a little bit into the tools that I want to share with you today. Every year, under the 2018 Farm Bill, producers have to make a decision between agricultural risk coverage, ARC in short, and price loss coverage, which is PLC. PLC triggers payout when marketing year average price goes below the reference prices that is stipulated by the Farm Bill. For ARC, what happens is that producers in a county, there are 2 types. We have the individual and then the county ARC. I'm focusing on the county ARC. For the county ARC, producers receive payout when the revenue goes below a certain benchmark. So we have a tool here. We develop a tool here in fund management program that would help producers, one, to trace the historical performance of these program, especially ARC. So for ARC, all you have to do is go and select a county of your choice. You can go and select Brown County and you select any crop. I'm just using barley, for instance. And one has to select the yield designation. Depending on the county in which you are, you may have to select irrigated or non-irrigated. So for Brown County barley, it is all. Within this period, this 5-year period, we see that this ARC County paid $6.91 to producers who enrolled in ARC over this period. The same thing can be done for price loss coverage or PLC, which triggers when the marketing year average price go below the statutory reference price. For this, we can equally select, Adams and then select barley, and you will see the payout for this in the county. And you can also select corn and see that it only triggered payout in 2019. And beyond that, we do not see any payout. I'm sure, well, if this is the past or the historical performance, what about now? We also have a tool for that, and that is the what if tool. For this one, what you have to do is to select the county of your choosing, like one you like or you want to observe. You can select corn, and once you select corn, you are able to see the yield designation, and this is telling us all as well, and it gives us the yield. So you can make changes to the yield. Here, if I enter, let's say, 250, and the price, if the expected prices for corn is to be around 4, I can press calculate, and I see the comparison of county ARC payout and PLC payout, the potential payout for this. And you see that PLC is likely to pay about $26 per base acre, whilst county ARC may not pay anything. So this may help you in deciding which of them to choose. One can go ahead and download the plot, and you have a picture of this. There are other things that we have out there for you. You can look at economic assistance program within your county, how much that will pay for your county. Now, that said, back to my presentation, we see that there are 4 options that producers can choose from to manage their forage production. So here we have forage production, we have forage seeding, whole farm revenue protection, pasture rangeland, and forage insurance products. We've seen historically that participation have been low, and we also see that some of these policies tend to pay a lot more in indemnities for every $1 paid in premium. For whole farm revenue protection insurance, we see that since 2020, no indemnities were issued to producers. That said, thank you very much for participation. You are more than welcome to send your questions. Thank you.